In the summer of 1943, at Camp Crossville, Tennessee, a German soldier who had spent 2 years fighting with the Afrika Korps in North Africa encountered an object that would fundamentally challenge his understanding of the world. The brown, fizzing liquid in the bottle before him was Coca-Cola, a carbonated soft drink that cost 5 cents at the camp canteen. This was the same price, guards informed him, that American children paid with their allowance money across the United States. This seemingly trivial moment represents a profound historical phenomenon. Between 1943 and 1946, approximately 425,000 German prisoners of war held in 511 camps across the United States underwent a systematic ideological transformation. This change occurred not through formal re-education programs or propaganda, but through daily exposure to American material abundance. Ice cream, soft drinks, candy bars, and other consumer goods that were either unavailable or severely rationed in Germany were routine items in American prison camps. These simple commodities became powerful instruments of psychological and ideological change. This narrative examines how American industrial capacity, as manifested through consumer abundance, systematically undermined Nazi ideology among German prisoners of war. Drawing on military quartermaster records, International Red Cross reports, corporate archives, prisoner correspondence, and the extensive research of historian Arnold Krammer, this analysis demonstrates that material plenty accomplished what formal propaganda programs could not achieve: the complete demolition of Nazi racial and economic theories. Chapter 1: The Surrender and Initial Encounter, the Collapse of the Afrika Korps. The Allied victory in North Africa during May 1943 brought approximately 250,000 German and Italian soldiers into Allied captivity. These veteran soldiers, who had pushed British forces back to Egypt under Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's leadership, expected harsh treatment as prisoners. Nazi propaganda had systematically prepared them for American brutality and starvation. The reality they encountered contradicted every expectation. Within hours of surrender, German prisoners received American K rations. These field rations, which American soldiers routinely complained about as inadequate, contained items that German troops considered luxurious: crackers, processed cheese, candy bars, fruit concentrates, instant coffee, sugar tablets, and cigarettes. German soldiers who had survived on minimal rations for months treated these emergency meals as feasts. According to United States Army records, at the processing camps in North Africa, prisoners received pancakes with syrup, fresh eggs, and milk. These foods had vanished from German military rations years earlier. The systematic feeding of enemies with superior food began immediately, though its psychological impact would only become apparent over time. A German officer later testified to the International Red Cross, "We expected to be starved as prisoners. Instead, the Americans fed us better than our own army had fed us." This confusion about American resources began our education. The Atlantic Crossing, abundance at sea. The Liberty ships carrying prisoners of war across the Atlantic Ocean in the summer of 1943 provided intensive education in American abundance. These vessels mass-produced at unprecedented rates, with one ship completed every 42 hours at peak production, transported up to 30,000 prisoners monthly to the United States. This production rate itself demonstrated industrial capacity that exceeded anything in German experience. Naval records indicate that prisoner rations aboard these ships matched or exceeded standard crew provisions, providing approximately 3,500 calories daily. Meals included fresh bread, meat, vegetables, and coffee with sugar and milk. The ship's refrigeration systems, Standard equipment on American vessels maintained fresh food throughout the 2-week crossing. Most remarkably, documented accounts confirm that ice cream was served on multiple occasions during Atlantic crossings. The log of the United States ship General M.B. Stewart from July 1943 records serving ice cream to prisoners on Independence Day, July 4th, using the ship's ice cream maker that produced 10 gallons per batch. For men who had not seen ice cream since before the war, this frozen dessert in the middle of the ocean defied comprehension. The casual use of resources for a luxury food item while simultaneously transporting prisoners across an ocean during wartime suggested a level of abundance that contradicted everything Nazi propaganda had taught about American weakness and inefficiency. First impressions of America. When ships docked at ports such as Norfolk and Newport News, Virginia, German prisoners encountered an America that Nazi propaganda had declared impossible. The Norfolk Naval Base, covering 4,300 acres, with extensive waterfront facilities, handled more cargo daily than major German ports managed weekly. At the port exchanges, shops for dock workers, prisoners glimpsed shelves stocked with candy bars from major manufacturers including Hershey, Mars, and Nestle. Military procurement records from 1943 show these exchanges stocked dozens of candy varieties, selling them at standard prices of 5 cents for most candy bars. This was the same price charged across America. The standardization of pricing, the abundance of choice, and the casual availability of luxury goods to ordinary workers challenged Nazi theories about American economic chaos and class-based scarcity. The journey inland by train provided further education in American systems. Unlike the cattle cars used for transport in Europe, German prisoners traveled in passenger coaches. The dining cars served full meals. Documented menus from July 1943 show fried chicken, vegetables, pie, and coffee. Prisoners discovered this was not special treatment for captives, but standard American rail service available to any paying passenger. Chapter 2. The Prison Camp System and Daily Life Camp. Infrastructure and conditions. The prison camp system constructed across America housed prisoners in conditions that exceeded Geneva Convention requirements. Camp Crossville, Tennessee, typical of the larger facilities, included electric lights, hot water, flush toilets, and heated barracks. The camps were designed to meet international standards for prisoner treatment, but the surrounding American context made these standards appear modest by comparison. The camp exchanges, commonly known as post-exchange or PX stores, delivered the deepest psychological impact. According to Army quartermaster records, camp exchanges stocked multiple soft drink brands including Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Dr. Pepper, and RC Cola. They also carried various candy bars and confections, ice cream where refrigeration permitted, cigarettes and tobacco products, fresh fruit and snacks, and beer with 3.2% alcohol content. Prisoners earned 80 cents daily for labor, a rate later increased to $1 per day. With candy bars priced at 5 cents and Coca-Cola at the same price, a day's wage could purchase 16 items. This abundance was beyond German imagination, where such products, if available at all, required special connections or party membership. The fact that ordinary prisoners could purchase luxury goods through honest labor challenged Nazi theories about the necessity of hierarchical control over scarce resources. The Coca-Cola phenomenon, Coca-Cola, became the symbol of American industrial democracy in the prison camps. The Coca-Cola Company's wartime production reached remarkable levels. Company records show 5 billion bottles produced in 1943 alone. The military contract guaranteed 5-cent Coca-Cola to American servicemen worldwide, a commitment requiring unprecedented logistics and industrial coordination. German prisoners discovered that this soft drink, unknown to most before capture, was ubiquitous in America. Every camp received regular deliveries. Work details observed vending machines and coolers everywhere, at gas stations, factories, and schools. Americans of all ages and social classes drank it casually, sometimes discarding half-empty bottles without concern. This casual waste of resources was incomprehensible to men from a society where scarcity defined daily life. The standardization astounded technically minded prisoners. Coca-Cola tasted identical whether consumed in Maine or Texas, a feat of quality control, exceeding anything German industry had achieved. The syrup concentrate manufactured in Atlanta and distributed nationwide to bottling plants represented industrial coordination that challenged Nazi assumptions about American chaos and inefficiency. Historical records from the Coca-Cola Company archives confirm that many prison camps received weekly deliveries of 200 to 300 cases, each containing 24 bottles. Camp Hearn, Texas alone consumed approximately 7,000 bottles weekly during the summer of 1943. Ice cream, the impossible luxury ice cream in American prison camps, seemed impossible to Germans who had not seen it since before the war. Yet Army records confirm that ice cream was regularly served in camps with adequate refrigeration during summer months. The United States military considered ice cream essential for morale, so important that specialized ice cream ships were built for the Pacific Fleet. This prioritization of a luxury food item for morale purposes during a global war revealed values and capabilities that German prisoners struggled to comprehend. At Camp Shelby, Mississippi, the Independence Day celebration on July 4, 1943, included ice cream made on site. Prisoners watched as hand-cranked freezers produced gallons of ice cream using ice, salt, cream, sugar, and flavorings. The casual use of scarce resources, ice in July, cream, and sugar, for entertainment food demonstrated priorities that Germans could not fathom. By 1944, many camps had electric ice cream makers. The variety available, including chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and butter pecan, exceeded what German ice cream parlors had offered before the war. Prisoners could purchase ice cream bars for 10 cents, ice cream sandwiches for the same price, or cups of various flavors. Army procurement records show that larger camps ordered 50 to 100 gallons of ice cream weekly during summer months. The frequency varied by location and season, but prisoners regularly enjoyed this frozen luxury that had vanished from German civilian life years earlier. Sugar, the mathematics of abundance. Sugar consumption in American prison camps delivered a particularly powerful impact on German prisoners' understanding of relative abundance. In Germany, sugar was strictly rationed to civilian populations. Germans received 280 grams monthly when available, often less. In American camps, refined white sugar sat in bowls on mess hall tables for unlimited use. Quartermaster records from 1943 to 1945 show camps receiving 100-pound bags of refined sugar weekly. Camp bakeries used sugar liberally. Cakes, cookies, and pies appeared regularly on menus. The mess halls sweetened coffee, tea, cereals, and desserts without restriction. This casual abundance of a severely rationed commodity in Germany demonstrated the gulf between the two economies. One documented incident from Camp Aliceville, Alabama, illustrates the contrast vividly. In August 1943, humid weather hardened several hundred pounds of sugar, making it difficult to use in cooking. Rather than steam and recover it, as German kitchens would have done out of necessity, American kitchen staff discarded the hardened sugar and ordered replacement supplies. German prisoners working in the kitchen were reportedly distressed by this waste, which represented months of rations for German families. Chocolate and candy, democratic consumption. American chocolate consumption patterns revealed what prisoners perceived as democratic abundance. Major manufacturers, including Hershey, Mars, and Nestle, produced millions of candy bars monthly despite wartime restrictions. The military alone purchased 380 million pounds of chocolate products during the war years, a quantity that exceeded total German civilian consumption. Prison camp exchanges stocked multiple chocolate varieties: the standard Hershey bar, various chocolate rations, emergency chocolate bars, and numerous candy bars containing chocolate were available for 5 to 10 cents. Prisoners discovered that Americans had preferences among chocolate brands, casually choosing one over another based on taste rather than availability. This luxury of choice, the ability to select based on preference rather than scarcity, represented a form of freedom unknown in Nazi Germany's controlled economy. Red Cross packages distributed monthly to prisoners included chocolate bars, among other items. The American Red Cross records show that standard parcels contained chocolate or candy bars, instant coffee, processed cheese, crackers, canned meat, cigarettes, and soap. These packages supplemented regular rations, providing luxury items that exceeded what German civilians received as basic rations. Chapter 3: Holiday Celebrations and Civilian Generosity. Thanksgiving Coordinated Abundance. Thanksgiving in November 1943 introduced German prisoners to a uniquely American celebration that demonstrated national coordination of consumption on a scale that dwarfed German organizational efforts. This purely American holiday with no European equivalent showcased the ability to provide abundant food to millions simultaneously. Army records confirm that all prison camps served traditional Thanksgiving dinner, consisting of roast turkey with stuffing, mashed potatoes and gravy, sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, vegetables, pumpkin pie, and coffee and milk. The logistics required for providing turkey dinners to 425,000 prisoners of war, in addition to millions of American servicemen worldwide, showcased organizational capacity that impressed even skeptical German officers. The fact that German prisoners received the same meal as American soldiers emphasized an equality of treatment that contradicted Nazi racial hierarchy. In Nazi ideology, inferior races and enemies deserved inferior treatment. The American practice of providing enemies with the same quality food as their own soldiers suggested either waste born of abundance or values fundamentally different from Nazi teachings. Christmas generosity. Christmas 1943 brought unexpected generosity from American civilians that profoundly affected German prisoners' understanding of American society. Church groups, civic organizations, and individuals sent packages to German prisoners of war. The American Friends Service Committee alone distributed 50,000 Christmas packages to enemy prisoners. These packages typically contained homemade cookies, candy, toiletries, games, and books, cigarettes, and writing materials. Local communities near camps often provided additional support. In Tonkawa, Oklahoma, townspeople delivered homemade treats to German prisoners at Camp Tonkawa. In Hearne, Texas, church groups brought Christmas cookies and candy to Camp Hearne. This civilian kindness toward enemies challenged Nazi ideology fundamentally. Americans who had family members fighting against Germany nevertheless showed charity to German prisoners, demonstrating strength through mercy rather than vengeance. This generosity was incomprehensible within the Nazi worldview, which emphasized conflict between races and nations as inevitable and total. The American practice of separating soldiers from political systems Treating enemy soldiers with dignity while opposing their government suggested a philosophical sophistication that Nazi propaganda had denied existed in democratic societies. Chapter 4: Labor Programs and American Society, Agricultural Work and Food Production. As labor shortages intensified in American agriculture, German prisoners of war worked increasingly outside camps, witnessing American food production firsthand. By 1944, approximately 100,000 prisoners worked in agriculture and food processing, gaining intimate knowledge of American abundance through direct participation in its creation. In Michigan orchards, prisoners picked cherries destined for maraschino production, those bright garnishes topping ice cream sundaes. The volume staggered them, single orchards producing tons of fruit for decorative purposes. At canneries, prisoners observed quality control that rejected perfectly edible food for minor imperfections. Del Monte records from 1944 show that approximately 15% of fruit was rejected for canning due to size irregularities or minor blemishes, typically diverted to animal feed rather than human consumption. Sugar beet processing in Colorado and Nebraska revealed agricultural mechanization beyond German achievement. Single American farms produced more sugar beets than entire German regions. Prisoners learned that American sugar production from both cane and beets reached approximately 7 million tons annually, explaining the casual abundance they witnessed in camps and American society. Exposure to American schools and communities. German prisoners working near schools witnessed early versions of organized school lunch programs. Children received hot lunches including milk, protein, and vegetables. The National School Lunch Act would formalize the system in 1946, but precedent programs operated during the war. The milk program particularly impressed German observers. Many schools provided fresh milk to children daily. The logistics of daily delivery to thousands of schools demonstrated organizational capacity that Germany could not achieve even for military supplies. Some school cafeterias offered ice cream for additional purchase. The concept of children buying frozen desserts at school while German children faced food shortages created profound impact among prisoner observers. This casual provision of luxury to children, the future generation, suggested a society investing in its people rather than merely extracting resources from them. American diners and democratic dining. When minimum security prisoners ate at American diners under guard supervision, they encountered democratic abundance in its most accessible form. These small restaurants offered menus that would have graced elite German establishments, yet were available to anyone with modest funds. Documented prices from 1944 show hamburger sandwiches at 25 cents, Coca-Cola at 5 cents, pie slices at 15 cents, ice cream sundaes at 25 cents, and full dinner specials at 65 to 75 cents. The equality of service impressed German observers as much as the abundance. Anyone could order anything. A factory worker and bank president ate identical meals at adjacent counter stools, served by the same waitress for the same price. This democratic consumption, the absence of class-based restrictions on food access, contradicted German social stratification and Nazi theories about the necessity of hierarchical organization. Chapter 5: Comparative Statistics and Economic Reality Production Comparisons. As prisoners gained access to American publications, they discovered production statistics that dwarfed German efforts. These numbers, published openly in American media, demonstrated that America's wartime production exceeded Germany's peacetime peaks. The transparency itself was remarkable. In Nazi Germany, such economic data was classified as state secrets. American production in 1944 documented the following figures: approximately 7 million tons of sugar, 380 million pounds of chocolate and cocoa products for military use alone, 5 billion bottles of Coca-Cola in 1943, over 500 million gallons of ice cream, and 119 billion pounds of milk. German production during the same period showed starkly different results. Sugar was heavily rationed and primarily produced from beets. Chocolate was designated for military priority use only. Soft drink production was minimal. Ice cream was virtually non-existent, and milk was severely rationed. These numbers provided mathematical proof of the gulf between the two economies. German prisoners could calculate that American production of even luxury items exceeded German production of necessities. This quantitative evidence supported what they observed daily in camps and communities. Rationing, even scarcity, was abundance. American rationing implemented during the war revealed the gulf between societies more clearly than abundance alone could demonstrate. Americans complained about sugar rationing of 2 pounds monthly per person, more than triple the German allowance when available. American meat rationing at 28 ounces weekly per person exceeded what Germans received monthly. Even when rationed, Americans maintained consumption levels that Germans considered impossible luxury. The Office of Price Administration records show Americans purchased 74 pounds of sugar per capita in 1944, despite rationing more than 10 times German per capita consumption. This meant that restricted American consumption exceeded unrestricted German consumption by an order of magnitude. The soft drink industry as industrial indicator. Beyond Coca-Cola, prisoners discovered America's diverse soft drink industry. Pepsi Cola, Dr. Pepper, RC Cola, Orange Crush, and numerous regional brands competed nationwide. The variety itself, with multiple companies producing similar products competing in an open market, demonstrated market abundance impossible under Germany's controlled economy. Bottling plants operated in every major city. The technology involved in carbonation, bottling, capping, and labeling was standardized and efficient. Single plants produced millions of bottles annually. The distribution network reached every small town, gas station, and grocery store across a continent-sized nation. American soft drink production reached billions of bottles annually by war's end, dozens of bottles per American citizen yearly. This single industry's output exceeded entire sectors of German consumer production. Chapter 6. War's End and Ideological Transformation, Liberation Footage, and Final Lessons. Spring 1945 brought the final blow to Nazi ideology among German prisoners in America. As American forces advanced through Germany, prisoners of war in American camps watched newsreels of American GIs distributing chocolate and chewing gum to German children. These children's joy at receiving American candy that their own government could not provide completed the ideological demolition. The contrast was stark and undeniable. American soldiers advancing through enemy territory carried enough candy to give away to children, while the German state that had promised triumph delivered starvation. Films of concentration camp liberations showed American troops sharing rations with skeletal survivors, demonstrating humanity toward victims of the regime German soldiers had served. This evidence of American values, provided through official military footage rather than propaganda, carried tremendous weight. Repatriation and physical evidence. Between 1945 and 1946, German prisoners of war returned to a destroyed homeland. Many prisoners had gained significant weight in American captivity, averaging 20 pounds or more, while their families had lost weight to starvation in German freedom. They brought not only memories but physical evidence of American abundance. Medical examinations showed German prisoners generally returned healthier than when captured, while they returned to families weakened by deprivation. Many prisoners brought final Red Cross packages home. Chocolate, coffee, and canned goods became family treasures. Children who had forgotten chocolate's taste received Hershey bars from fathers who had eaten ice cream regularly in prison camps. This physical evidence of American plenty versus German deprivation was undeniable. The reversal was complete. During their captivity, German prisoners had sent approximately 11 million parcels home to Germany, most containing American food items purchased with camp wages. This reversed the normal direction of aid, with prisoners sending food to free civilians, demonstrated the depth of German collapse and the extent of American abundance. Chapter 7: Post-War Influence and the German Economic Miracle. Advocates for Reconstruction. Former prisoners of war became unexpected advocates for the Marshall Plan. They had witnessed American abundance that was not zero-sum, prosperity through production rather than conquest. Their testimony that Americans could afford to rebuild enemies influenced German acceptance of American aid. These men understood that American power came from productive capacity, not extraction from conquered territories. They had seen a society wealthy enough to waste food while fighting a global war. This mental model, emphasizing creation rather than conquest, shaped West Germany's economic approach in the Reconstruction period. The German economic miracle of the 1950s was partially built on knowledge gained in American prison camps. Application of observed principles. Former prisoners of war who had witnessed American production methods, distribution systems, and consumer abundance applied these lessons to German Reconstruction. They had learned several fundamental principles that contradicted Nazi economic theory. First, mass production could make luxuries affordable to ordinary people. Second, standardization enabled both quality and efficiency. Third, consumer abundance created political stability rather than weakness. Fourth, industrial democracy could outproduce authoritarian control. These lessons, learned through consuming Coca-Cola and ice cream, shaped a generation of German business and political leaders. The transformation of individual German prisoners into advocates for democratic capitalism occurred through observation rather than propaganda, through experience rather than instruction. This made the transformation more profound and more lasting than any formal re-education program could have achieved. The introduction of American consumer culture. Former prisoners of war often became importers of American food products, understanding their appeal from personal experience. They knew these products represented more than taste. They symbolized abundance, democracy, and modernity. Coca-Cola returned to West Germany in 1949, becoming a symbol of American alliance. Ice cream parlors modeling American soda fountains appeared in German cities. Candy bars and chewing gum became symbols of recovery rather than occupation. The introduction of supermarkets to Germany in the 1950s was championed by former prisoners of war who had witnessed American grocery stores. They understood that democratic abundance required new distribution methods, not just increased production. The American model of self-service retail, where consumers selected from abundant choices, represented a democratic approach to consumption that former prisoners worked to implement in reconstructed Germany. Chapter 8: Historical Assessment and Scholarly Documentation. The Transformation Through Abundance. The transformation of German prisoners of war through American food. Abundance is documented in multiple source types, providing a robust historical record. Military quartermaster records detail the quantities and types of food provided. International Red Cross reports document conditions and compliance with Geneva Conventions. Corporate production records, particularly Coca-Cola Company archives, show the scale of soft drink production and distribution. Prisoner correspondence, though censored, preserved observations and reactions. Post-war interviews and memoirs provide retrospective analysis. Academic studies, particularly Arnold Krammer's extensive research, offer scholarly interpretation. Arnold Krammer, who served as professor of history at Texas A&M University and conducted 2 Fulbright scholarships in Germany, stands as the leading historian of German prisoners of war in America. His seminal work, Nazi Prisoners of War in America, published in 1979 and reissued with new material in subsequent editions, concluded that food abundance was central to ideological transformation. His research, based on extensive interviews with former prisoners and exhaustive archival work, confirmed that casual American plenty accomplished what formal re-education programs could not: complete demolition of Nazi superiority myths. Statistical documentation. The statistical summary provides irrefutable quantitative evidence of the transformation's foundation. Average prisoner consumption from 1943 to 1946 included daily calories ranging from 3,300 to 3,600, sugar at 4 pounds monthly available without restriction, meat at 32 ounces weekly, milk at 1 quart daily available, ice cream served regularly during summer months, and soft drinks unlimited at 5 cents each. German civilian rations during the same period showed starkly different conditions: daily calories ranging from 1,200 to 1,500, sugar at 280 grams monthly when available, meat at 10 and 1/2 ounces weekly and often unavailable, milk severely rationed, ice cream non-existent, and soft drinks none available. These disparities were not propaganda but documented reality. Enemy prisoners ate better than German civilians, proving American abundance extended even to defeated foes. Chapter 9. Long-term impact and historical significance, testimony and memory. In various post-war interviews and memoirs spanning decades, German prisoners of war consistently identified food abundance as transformative. A former Afrika Korps officer stated in a 1975 interview, "We expected to defeat a weak, divided America. Instead, we found a nation that could give ice cream to enemies. That is when we knew we had lost more than a war. We had lost our entire world view." Another veteran interviewed for a documentary in 1985 recalled, "My first Coca-Cola was like drinking the future. It was sweet, fizzing, completely unnecessary, and available to anyone for a nickel. That drink contained everything Nazi Germany was not: abundant, democratic, joyful." These testimonies, collected across decades, confirm that American food abundance achieved what military defeat alone could not: complete ideological transformation. The men who arrived as Nazi warriors left as witnesses to democratic prosperity. Scholarly recognition. Historians recognize the German prisoner experience in America as remarkably successful re-education through abundance rather than propaganda. The program succeeded because it relied on observation rather than instruction. Prisoners saw American society functioning at peak productivity while treating enemies with dignity. The food aspect was crucial because it was universal. Everyone understands hunger and satisfaction. Undeniable through visible weight gain and health improvement, continuous through 3 meals daily plus canteen purchases, and comparative as prisoners knew German deprivation intimately. Every meal became a lesson in American industrial capacity. Every Coca-Cola demonstrated standardization and distribution. Every ice cream sundae showed that abundance could be democratic rather than reserved for elites. The education was constant, concrete, and undeniable. Multi-generational impact. Children of prisoners of war grew up hearing about American abundance in prison camps. These stories, initially seeming fantastic, were validated as West Germany recovered and American products became available. The mythology of American plenty, born in prison camps, shaped generations of German-American relations. Many children of prisoners later studied or worked in America, drawn by their fathers' stories of impossible abundance. They found the reality matched the tales. Supermarkets stocked with variety, soda fountains serving sundaes, candy aisles offering dozens of choices. This multi-generational impact extended beyond individuals to shape institutional culture. West German business culture absorbed lessons about consumer abundance, quality standardization, and democratic markets. The economic miracle was not just about production volumes, but about creating abundance for ordinary citizens. The democratic capitalism that emerged in West Germany owed a debt to lessons learned in American prison camps. Conclusion: the power of prosperity. The complete integration today, McDonald's operates over 1,400 restaurants in Germany. Coca-Cola is ubiquitous. Ice cream is ordinary. The transformation from scarcity to abundance, initiated in American prison camps, is complete. Yet the historical lesson remains powerful and relevant. Ideological transformation through abundance rather than deprivation proved more effective than punishment. Kindness rather than cruelty achieved lasting change. Demonstration rather than propaganda convinced the skeptical. The German prisoners who could not believe ice cream and Coca-Cola in American prison camps witnessed democracy's ultimate weapon, the ability to create such abundance that it could be casually shared with enemies. This capacity revealed power beyond military might. It demonstrated values through actions rather than words. It transformed enemies into advocates through experience rather than coercion. Historical significance. The story of German prisoners and American food abundance represents history's most unusual victory. A war won partially through generosity, an ideology defeated by ice cream, a world view shattered by soft drinks. These men experienced transformation not through punishment, but through plenty. They arrived believing in German superiority and American weakness. They left understanding that American strength came from productive capacity so vast it could waste resources without concern. The society that could give Coca-Cola to prisoners for 5 cents possessed power beyond military might. The ice cream sundae with its layers of excess, ice cream, syrup, whipped cream, nuts, and cherry, became a metaphor for American abundance. Each component alone exceeded German dreams. Combined, they represented impossible luxury made routine. That enemies could order seconds while German children faced hunger revealed the totality of Nazi failure. The revelation through sensory memory. Former prisoners often recalled specific moments of revelation with vivid sensory detail. The first Coca-Cola's fizz on the tongue. The first spoonful of ice cream's cold sweetness. The first bite of a Hershey bar's smooth chocolate. These sensory memories carried more power than any argument or lecture. They had tasted democracy, and it was sweet. The taste was undeniable, the abundance was visible, and the transformation was complete and irrevocable. Men who had marched for the Third Reich returned as apostles of abundance, carrying the revolutionary message that prosperity came from freedom, not conquest. They had learned that America's secret weapon was not military might, but the ability to give ice cream to enemies. In the end, the bottles of Coca-Cola and dishes of ice cream served in American prison camps achieved what armies could only attempt: the complete transformation of enemy hearts and minds. The ultimate lesson. The German prisoners who could not believe such abundance existed became its greatest witnesses, carrying home the truth that democracy tasted like chocolate and freedom fizzed like carbonation. Their story reminds us that sometimes the greatest victories are won, not through destruction but through demonstration, not through taking but through giving, not through hatred but through the simple act of serving ice cream to enemies on a hot summer day. The men who experienced American abundance as prisoners became freedom's most unlikely ambassadors, transformed forever by the impossible reality of Coca-Cola and ice cream in American prison camps. Their transformation, documented through decades of scholarship and testimony, stands as evidence that ideological change occurs most profoundly when people experience alternative possibilities rather than being told about them. The abundance they encountered was not propaganda but reality, and that reality proved more powerful than any argument in defeating totalitarian ideology. This historical episode offers enduring lessons about soft power, the importance of values demonstrated through actions, and the transformative potential of abundance shared rather than hoarded. The German prisoners who returned home carrying memories of American plenty became advocates for a different path forward, one based on production rather than conquest, abundance rather than scarcity, democracy rather than authoritarianism. Their transformation, begun with a 5-cent bottle of Coca-Cola, helped shape the post-war order in ways that military occupation alone could never have achieved.